I thought I'd left the battlefield for good, but I was wrong. Turns out peace doesn't always die in war. Sometimes it gets strangled by a woman named Karen with a clipboard and too much free time. The day she threw my mail into a public trash can and got handcuffed in front of the whole neighborhood. That's when I realized this HOA wasn't just a community, it was a kingdom, and she was its tyrant. After 30 years in the military, all I wanted was quiet mornings, the smell of coffee, and a front porch that faced the sunrise. Oak Ridge Estates seemed perfect clean lawns, quiet cul-de-sacs, polite waves from neighbors. It felt like order. I guess that's what fooled me. Order can look a lot like control until you see who's holding the reins. The first week after moving in, I mounted a modest American flag beside my door. Standard size properly displayed. The next morning there it was, a bright yellow violation notice slapped onto my door like a warning shot. Flag display violates HOA Guideline Section 4.3. Remove immediately. I stood there rereading it twice, thinking I must have missed something. There was no rule against flags I'd checked before buying the house. So I called the HOA office. After being bounced around 3 different extensions, I finally heard her voice, smooth-clipped and dripping with that fake sweet authority. "Mr. Mitchell." She sighed, dragging my name like it offended her. "We have standards here. Your flag is in a non-approved location. You'll need to submit a request to the architectural committee." I tried to stay polite. I filled out the paperwork, attached pictures, waited patiently. 2 weeks later, denial. No reason given. Just request denied. A few days later I saw her for the first time, Karen Wilkins, HOA president. She was walking her little white terrier like she owned the pavement beneath it. She glanced at me, smirked, and said, "You'll learn how things work here." Then she walked off. That was my first real warning. Weeks passed. I kept my head down, tried to be a good neighbor. But every time I turned around, there was another notice taped to my door. My grass was half an inch too long. My garbage can stayed at the curb too long after pickup. My mailbox was apparently the wrong shade of black. I trimmed, repainted, complied over and over, thinking maybe she'd leave me alone if I just followed the rules. Then one chilly morning I threw on my old service jacket before walking out to check the mail. Karen was on the sidewalk, dog leash in hand. She froze. Her face tightened like she'd just smelled something rotten. "We don't do that here," she said. "Do what I asked." She gestured at my jacket, my worn, decorated jacket. "This isn't a military base. That sort of thing makes people uncomfortable." Uncomfortable. That word hung in the air like a slap. I'd spent 3 decades serving a country that prided itself on freedom, and my neighbor was uncomfortable with a jacket. I didn't say a word, just stared at her until she turned away. After that, things got worse. Every week another violation, another fine, another sarcastic smile when she saw me at the mailbox. But I kept my calm until the mail started disappearing. At first I thought it was random, maybe delivery errors, lost letters. But when my Veterans Affairs check didn't show up for 2 months, I knew something was wrong. I called the VA. They confirmed everything had been sent. The post office said others in Oak Ridge Estates had complained about missing mail too. So I started watching. Every day. Same time. Nothing. Empty mailbox. Friends said they'd sent cards, packages. I got none of it. Then came the one that broke me, a certified letter from my daughter, the one with photos of my newborn grandson. Tracking said it was delivered, but the box was empty. That night my neighbor Tom knocked on my door. Quiet guy, mid-30s, kind of shy. He looked uneasy. "Mr. Mitchell," he said softly, "you need to see something." He pulled out his tablet and played a video from his security camera. My stomach turned. There she was, Karen Wilkins, in broad daylight, opening my mailbox, flipping through my letters and slipping a few into her oversized purse. Tom swiped to another clip. This time Karen was at the park tossing handfuls of envelopes into the trash. I just sat there, fists clenched, trying to steady my breathing. This wasn't an HOA issue anymore. This was a crime. Tom sent me the footage, and that night I called the police. The moment I mentioned mail theft, the officer transferred me to a detective. The next morning, Detective Rivera, calm, sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, knocked on my door. She reviewed the footage, then looked up at me. "Mr. Mitchell, this is serious. Mail theft is a federal crime. We'll bring in the Postal Inspection Service." I nodded, but inside I was boiling. All I'd wanted was peace, and now my peace was being ripped apart by a woman who thought power meant ownership. 3 days later, as I was checking what little mail I had left, I heard the sharp click of heels behind me. Karen. She smiled that fake smile of hers. "Finding everything you need?" she asked. I decided to play dumb. "Actually, no," I said, keeping my tone calm. "Seems like I'm missing quite a bit of mail lately. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" For a second her eyes flickered. Then that smug expression snapped back. "How would I know about your mail? Maybe you're just not as important as you think. Not everyone gets thank you cards for doing their job." Her words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. She wasn't just mocking me, she was trying to humiliate me, to make me doubt myself. And for a moment I did. That night I sat at my kitchen table staring at the empty mailbox outside. Maybe I'd been too paranoid. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe after all these years I didn't belong anywhere anymore. But then I saw the photo of my daughter and that tiny baby I hadn't even met yet. And something clicked. No, I wasn't crazy. No, I wasn't overreacting. Someone had crossed a line and I wasn't the one who should feel ashamed. The next day, I walked to that same mailbox with my head high. And wouldn't you know it, Karen was already there pretending to check her mail. She smirked, ready to gloat again. "You military types always think you're so special, don't you?" She snapped suddenly, her mask cracking. "Always expecting discounts, praise, sympathy. The rest of us work hard too, you know." Her voice echoed through the cul-de-sac. Curtains shifted, doors opened, neighbors stepped outside. I stayed calm. "I never asked for anything special, Karen," I said quietly. "Just the mail that belongs to me." That's when she exploded. "You don't deserve it," she screamed. "All those cards and checks, it's disgusting. You think serving this country makes you better than us?" By now, half the street was watching, and across the road I spotted Tom, his phone discreetly recording every word. Karen noticed too. She froze, then straightened her blouse and forced a laugh. "I'm simply saying," she stammered, "that the HOA has rules about mailbox standards. His needs replacing." Tom's voice cut through the silence. "That's not what you just said, Karen. We all heard you." Her face went pale. Without another word, she turned on her heel and stormed off. 2 days later, my phone rang. Detective Rivera again. "Mr. Mitchell," she said, "we've executed a search warrant at Ms. Wilkins' property. We recovered a large amount of mail belonging to you and several other residents. She's being taken into custody right now." I didn't feel victory, just relief. Relief that the nightmare might finally end. A few minutes later, I heard the wail of sirens echoing down the street. Red and blue lights splashed across the windows. I stepped outside just in time to see Karen, the queen of Oak Ridge Estates, being led away in handcuffs. "This is ridiculous," she shouted, struggling against the officers. "I'm the HOA president. I was protecting our property values." Neighbors whispered, some filmed, others just stood stunned. Karen caught sight of me on my porch and pointed furiously. "He's the problem. People like him ruin neighborhoods like this." The officer quietly shut the door of the patrol car, muffling her voice. And just like that, the reign of Karen Wilkins was over. That evening, Tom stopped by again. He handed me his phone with a small grin. "Sir, your video's all over the news." I laughed for the first time in weeks. The story had gone viral. HOA president arrested for stealing veterans' mail. The next day, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Karen was stripped of her position, and the new board publicly apologized to every resident she'd harassed. But it didn't stop there. A local TV reporter interviewed me, and a week later I got a call from a state senator. He said he remembered my name years ago. I'd helped rescue his son's unit overseas. He wanted to thank me personally. I didn't know what to say. Life sure has a funny way of circling back. When Karen's court date came, the courtroom was packed. The evidence was overwhelming: video footage, stolen letters, witnesses. Even her outburst caught on Tom's phone. The prosecutor laid it out plain. Mail theft is a federal offense, and targeting a veteran makes it worse. Karen tried to defend herself. "I was just enforcing the rules," she said, voice trembling. "I was protecting our community." The judge wasn't buying it. "You abused your power," he said. "You violated the rights of your neighbors. You will be held accountable." She was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, 5 years of probation, and ordered to pay $25,000 in fines and restitution. As they led her away, she turned toward me, eyes wide with disbelief, like she couldn't understand how her power had slipped away. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just felt done. You spend a lifetime serving your country, thinking you've seen all the ways power can corrupt. But sometimes the real tyranny hides behind picket fences and HOA meetings. And as I watched that patrol car disappear down the street, I realized something peace isn't about silence or clean lawns. It's about standing up when someone decides they're above everyone else. Because real peace only exists when someone's finally brave enough to fight for it.